Good afternoon. Thank you for being here today. Many of you have probably either experienced a concussion or known somebody who's had one. It's a fairly common injury, but a lot of people don't really know how serious it actually is. Our speaker today is an HNFE major with a passion for physical therapy, and she also works as a trainer for the Virginia Tech athletic team, the football team. And she does this to get experience outside the classroom, a little bit more hands-on, so she can just jump into the field. So this experience has shown her just how important it actually is to know your body and how to take care of it. She's been to lectures by one of the top researchers in this field and has known many people who've experienced a concussion, even outside of sports. So she firmly believes that educating others on the topic of concussions can help prevent brain damage in people of all ages. Without further ado, our speaker today is NicoleO.
Thank you, James. As you heard, my name is NicoleO, and I'm going to be talking about concussions and their implications of international importance. The presentation I'm going to be having is Understanding Concussions in a Risky and Sports-Consumed Environment. So, a lot of people believe that concussions are something in high-risk sports, such as football or soccer, and that they're not something that can be life-threatening or life-altering. Can I have a show of hands of those who have had a concussion before? All right. How about those who have had a blow or hit to the head in which they experience a headache or pain following? So a lot of people. And even regardless of the number of hands we had today, people experience concussions and hits to the head every single day. In fact, some of the injuries could be merely bumps that do not end in a concussion, but there are many head injuries that occur. The CDC, or Center for Disease Control, says that concussions are the most common type of TBI, or traumatic brain injury, and that 52,000 deaths occur just in the United States annually. So you may wonder then, what is a concussion, and if I have had one, should I be concerned about my well-being or my future? Hopefully at the end of my presentation, I'll be able to answer some of those questions for you. So my objectives... Is this working?
You should have done it now.
Oh, yes. So my objectives are going to be to inform you all of what a concussion is, how it's significant in today's society and on an international level, and what we're doing here at Virginia Tech, especially with the football team, with helmets and their rating systems and how things are being changed and implemented. So starting by telling you what a concussion is and how you can help yourself, I'll give you some background anatomy of the brain. The brain is located in the subarachnoid space inside the skull and is floating in cerebrospinal fluid. So if you think about it, it's essentially just floating inside your soul, making it very vulnerable to different injuries and different impacts. So the CDC says that a concussion is a type of traumatic brain injury that causes a bump, blow, or jolt to the head, or hit to the body that causes the head and brain to move rapidly back and forth. So in other words, a person is going to encounter a concussion in two different ways. One way, you're hit in the skull and your brain is going to hit one side, come to a stop in motion, and hit the other side. The other type is a rotational concussion, such as when you're hit by something and your brain and body move very rapidly, causing strain on the muscles in the brain. So a person with concussion can range in their symptoms depending on the severity. Some of the concussion by the Sports Institute states that physical symptoms such as headache and nausea, cognitive symptoms such as difficulty with concentration or memory, emotional symptoms such as irritability and sadness, and maintenance symptoms such as sleep disturbances and changes in appetite. So the main issue with a concussion is blood clots that can occur due to these severe hits. Blood clot, you can't just look at a person and see it, but it will be bleeding of the brain that causes it to push against the skull. And in order to figure out if someone actually has this, you will need to look for symptoms, and then 911 will need to be called, emergency room, that will have to be the procedure. So some of the symptoms would be a pupil being larger than the other, slurred speech, weakness, nausea, seizures, loss of consciousness, pretty big deal things. The biggest issue with concussions isn't just that first concussion, but it's the occurrence of multiple concussions. That's why sports is so big on, oh, concussions are so awful. And then also the long-term consequences that we're talking about that are still being studied by researchers around the globe to see what's truly going on and how these are impacting people's lives in the future. So some of these different consequences are noted, such as cognitive impairments, chronic brain disease, suicidal thoughts, sleep apnea, and loss of memory. Transitioning to kind of how this plays an international role, I'm going to tell you a little story. I was a senior in high school, and I was at a youth retreat. We were playing Capture the Flag one night. It was out in the dark, and suddenly a piercing cry rang out through the camp. And so I ran to the side of my sophomore friend, lying in the grass with blood all over her face, and we rushed her inside, tried to clean her up, figure out what was going on. It turned out that she had been running and had not seen this wooden sign for the camp, and before she could stop herself, she ran face first into it and basically clotheslined herself. And so they ended up, which was not the right thing to do, but they kept her at the camp that night and then took her to the urgent care the next day, which was found to have the worst concussion that that specific facility had seen that year. Granted, this was also in October, so she had a pretty bad one. 2 years later now, she's doing fine. She hasn't had any other concussions. She still has all of her teeth. But I tell you her story to show that it's not just in sports that these concussions happen. People can experience them in the most random ways. And also to show that millions of people have concussions every year, and she's just one of millions that was actually diagnosed with a concussion. So some people may end up having one that they do not realize they do have. And then it's that issue of when they have more concussions and they don't report those symptoms, that these chronic issues can occur. So now after I tell you that story, I'd like you guys to do the little activity I have made for you. Oops. If you could match up your percentage with the TBI associated with it, just take your best guess, just kind of where you think each thing is going to go. And then
what does stuck by / against mean?
Such as like in, I guess in a football game, or like being hit with a ball in baseball, or like that type of thing, or yeah. Or I guess if someone hit you with a baseball bat. I'll go ahead and stop you all. Does anyone have any questions on it? Good. So can I have a show of hands of those who may have put struck by, against, or a motor vehicle accident as the 40.5%? Okay. One would think. Where did you guys put falls, if anyone wants to tell me?
19.
19?
14.
14? Well, in fact, falls are, this is very surprising. I was completely surprised that falls are actually the leading cause of traumatic brain injuries. Yeah, this is pretty interesting. So to give you some other statistics, the CDC estimates that just in the United States, 1.6 million to 3.8 million concussions occur each year. And because the U.S. is leading the world in concussion research and trying to get all of that kind of pushed over to the east and everything, a lot of the statistics are going to be mainly about the United States. But the Sports Concussion Institution also estimates that 47% of athletes do not report feeling any symptoms of a concussive blow, which is surprising when, and especially this being struck against and by, is very surprising when a professional boxer's punch comes at 20 miles per hour. A stationary football player being tackled is 25 miles per hour, and a person heading a soccer ball is 70 miles per hour. So falls being in the highest is still kind of interesting to me. And even though that is how the statistics show, the issue with sports and having the concussions in sports can't be neglected. We'll consider the NFL, for example, something that controls our Sundays, especially during the Super Bowl. I mean, you think about the Super Bowl, everyone knows when the Super Bowl is coming on. CNN actually had the record being 114.4 million TV viewers last year, and this year was 111.9 million TV viewers. So just looking at this record viewership and the amount of people who know about football and know the dangers of it and how it fills our lives with action and intrigue, but hides a lot of what goes on behind the scenes, is why we need to take a look into this multi-million-dollar corporation. So I don't know if anyone's seen the movie Concussion, but it actually stars Will Smith, who plays the character Bennett Omalu, who discovered in his findings of chronic traumatic encephalopathy, which is the progressive degenerative disease of the brain, as you can see here. And it also talks about the lives of two former NFL players, Mike Webster, who died at age 50, due to a heart attack, but was later diagnosed with CTE, and also Dave Duerson, who committed suicide in 2011, was also diagnosed with CTE later. So the movie kind of talks about Omalu's discovery and how he had to go against the NFL and how just the big issue between letting people know like that concussions are more than just a simple hit to the head, go back out and continue playing the game. So unfortunately, are helmets going to be the one thing that solves this problem and solves all the problems? No, helmets were not truly made to prevent concussions, but they can be a way to help make the game safer and protect in ways that to make concussions less severe. So here at Virginia Tech, there's research being done, and we're the first school to come up with this helmet rating system. It's called STAR, including stars. So each helmet and brand is given a star rating, 5 being the best, 1 being the worst, of the amount of protection that helmet will provide. And they're done by drop tests, as you can see here, and impact tests to emulate what is happening to the football players during games. And this is being taken to all other schools, and it's become something really big. In fact, even in soccer now, they're using different sensors that the girls, I think the girls' soccer team is the main team that's working with it. They'll wear sensors like behind their ears to calculate the amount of impact that they get from other players and the ball and that type of thing. So the solution here isn't in like fixing everything. We can't just fix concussions. Concussions are going to continue to happen, and we can't just quit sports because sports drive our lives. So the solution is in understanding what is happening and tailoring practices and games and equipment so that safety becomes a priority and we can still enjoy these sports that we so love. And like I said, concussions aren't just a sport thing, but we cannot simply overlook their significance in sports. So that being said, my call to action is for this international issue is for people to realize their importance and cherish your brain. I mean, we only have one, and we all have it, and we have to be able to come to school and understand these things and learn about it. And then if we find ways to protect it, we can create new technologies, safer rules in sports. We can take precautions in life, such as wearing a helmet when you're on a bike or a motorcycle, or buckling your seatbelt when you're in a car, or even using handrails to prevent these falls that are such a big impact on concussions. And even using adequate lighting in areas such as with my friend. If that sign had been lit up, I'm sure we wouldn't have had the issue that she had. So these simple solutions to protecting ourselves and our society from the consequences of concussions, it seems so simple if we would just go and do them. And unfortunately, if we don't start acting on this and do something and take into consideration more research and understanding of these different implications of safety in sports and stuff, people will lose their minds, literally. So that's all I have. Anyone has any questions? Yes, James?
It seemed like a lot of the symptoms of concussions were congruent with strokes. Do they cause strokes?
I believe the amount of brain damage that you can have can lead to strokes in your future. So kind of leading to the heart attack that Mike Webster ended up having and how they diagnosed him with CTE. The brain does play a big impact on that. So yeah, I would say you're correct. Yes.
Yeah, what are you supposed to do if you do that one? Because I did my final labs, and we were just kind of like arguing concussion or being stupid.
Yeah.
Is that all you do?
I mean, you could go have a baseline test done. Sometimes, this is something that I actually didn't have in my presentation, but they do baseline tests for people such as athletes to get an idea of where their brain is before and after a concussion occurs. I don't know if you have already had one, but once you get one, probably the best thing to do is to watch out for another one. And if you do encounter another one, maybe go have it checked out, just check on your body. It's really something that you just kind of have to feel for yourself, I guess. So
Okay.
just kind of tell them to watch out for other things and don't give them another one.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you all for your time.